Come on in.
First of all, can
Thank
I
you.
have a hug?
Yes, you can. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. You're so nice. Thank you. I like her. Please.
I like him too. One thing I like about him, he keeps it real just like Grandma. I appreciate that because I can trust him because he tells exactly how he feels and what he thinks. Thank God for this president. I am filled, my cup runneth over. Because he allowed his constituents, his people to come to my house to interview me, to talk about the murder of my grandson. It seemed like nobody cared. I'm an advocate for murder. I marched, I rallied, I pulled out other families in the District of Columbia that had murders and did not have answers. Ooh. We marched and we rallied, and nobody heard me, Democrats. Get mad at me. Until this Republican sent his constituents, his people out there to interview me in my home. Have you ever heard of a thing? Then they invited me twice before Congress to testify for the beautiful bill that's going to change crime in the district. If you kill somebody, okay, you take a life, you do life. Just that simple. If you do a harsh crime, you do harsh time. Just that simple. And then we need National Guard, and which we did years ago. He brought it on. I love him. I don't want to hear nothing you got to say about that racist stuff. And don't be looking at me on the news hating on me because I'm standing up for somebody that deserves to be standing up for. Get off the man's back. Let him do his job. He's doing the right thing. Back up off of him. And Grandma said it.
Shalom. First and foremost, when you all praises, all honor and all glory to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakakodash, and double honor to the apostles, the bishops, the elders, the GMS, Shalom to you brothers, pushing truth in sincerity across the four winds of the earth. And real quick, I just want to touch on this. I recorded it last week. And I was like, I'm going to make a video, just a quick, small video about it because, you know, our people, you know, are completely lost, right? Completely lost. And just because, you know, the the president, right, acts like he cares about whatever, you know, situation that you have or just with anybody, right, especially amongst our enemies. They will give you things or say things to make it seem like they're not, you know, who they are, right? And I made a video about that because in that movie, what was that movie called? The Sinners, right? Where is it? I think it was like near the beginning, right? Where the vampire, the dude, he spawned in. Right, it doesn't really say where he came from. He just, out of nowhere, just hits the ground. Then he goes into that couple's house. Right, then he ends up turning them both into the vampires. Right, but then before that, right, the Northern Kingdom, they were so-called Indians, right, so-called Native Americans that they had, right. They went up to the house. And they pretty much knew that he went in there, but they wasn't about to, you know, press the lady or whatever the case may be. But the warning that he or they had given her, right, was about him. And it was like, be careful, because he's not who he say he is. All right, I made a video about that, right? Because these people are not who they say they are, and who you think they could or think that they are. Because of nice words or a gift or whatever the case may be, that has nothing to do with the actual countenance, right? And actually who they are as a people, man. And we know them as the wicked, right? and that's who they are in in the Bible. So it's like, if you know this information, right, then you know that only thing it is just an act, right? And that's all that they do every day, all day is act. They put on a show to make it seem like they care. But if you can read his thoughts and actually what he was thinking, you would probably have passed out and fainted on stage. But since he act like he cared about you, your family, and people dying and so on and so forth, Jake, you eat it up, right? You completely just eat it up, man. And you don't realize that these people are plotting war, right, against you, right? They're not here to try to be your friend and so on and so forth, but they're just playing that game right now, right? Because the horns, right, it is going to truly come out when the time comes, right? And we've been warning you and telling you about these people, right, that they're not who they seem that they are. And you, Jake, it just is not taking heed to the warning, right? And it's not something you have to listen to, but you know the truth, right, is going to, eventually, manifest itself. And then you're going to realize what we've been telling you people about these people is completely true. Like, and you can read a lot of the history, right, through the scriptures about the things that they were doing, right, to our people, right? And those same people, right, some of them same spirits are back on the earth today, right? These politicians, these government leaders, and, these people they're back, right? Some of the soldiers that was in some of the armies back then, right? When you read the history, man, these especially Edomites, right? We're just talking about Edomites. Has a hatred for Jake, man, right? And the scriptures talk about never trust thine enemy, right? And that's also amongst your own people, but specifically we're talking about the Edomites right now, man, because they're always up to no good. So it doesn't matter what they go on TV and say and make it seem like they're talking all smooth, and they might shed a couple tears and they might hug you. You say, come here. He's like, I like her. Gave her a hug and a kiss, and she's just like awed away by that because he's the president. But you don't realize that war is in his heart. He's thinking about how he gonna rip your skin off. Right? Because that, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Just look at who's in rulership, right? Look who's in rulership, and look around you. Look at the food. Look at how you live. Look at the air. Look at the water. Or not look at the air. Look at the skies. Filled with chemtrails. Look at the food. Poison. Right? And these people are the ones that's in charge of all this. So it's very clear that they can put on a show, but it's not real, man. Right? That makes me think about when the elder Manasseh Zagba, that day he was dealing with that and it happened not too long ago, probably a couple camps ago, where he was dealing with that drunk guy, and his girlfriend had to get him, and then the cops eventually came and told him pretty much to leave him alone, and got him away. But then that one Edomite, right, when the cop was there, he immediately started lying and tried to get him in trouble, right? But then when the cop left and then he walked by him, he was like, I love you guys, or whatever the case may be. Like, that is the two-facedness of these people. Right? You can't trust these people. And the scriptures say what? It says they, I'm probably going to get it, but they strained from the womb, speaking lies, so on and so forth. Right, but I want to get this one scripture, right? Ecclesiastes, right, 7. And we can start at 5, right? It says, it is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools. It says, for as the cackling or the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This is also vanity. It says, surely oppression, right, maketh a wise man mad, right? And a gift destroyeth the heart. Right? And that's what happens. People get gifts in the society. You get things, or you receive things from people, and it immediately messes up your mind. because somebody gave you something, you immediately think that they're good. They have your best intentions at heart. They care about you. Right, and so on and so forth. But it's just further from the truth that can be possible. Like I said, if you could read that man's thoughts, if his thoughts was being displayed on TV or whatever the case may be, you would definitely would have had a heart attack. Would have fainted on stage. But it's just like it's a game to these people, right? And they don't care about you, Jake, and they show you that every single day. When you go read the Bible, right? When you read through the scripture, you read throughout the history and the accounts and all the things that was happening. They don't care about you. And the scriptures say what in Ecclesiastes, the 1st chapter, right? There's nothing new under the sun, man. History merely repeats itself. That also goes along with the people. Those spirits, right? Those spirits that was back then persecuting Jake and doing this and doing that. They're back again. Right, of course, some of them try to play the nice game. You can read accounts of that in Maccabees, especially amongst Jake. They were trying to be nice and so on and so forth. Spies, agents, try to be nice, and then when you fall into the trap of them being nice or trying to give you something, then what do? They stab you in the back. Right, just like you. Even when you read their history, with the who was it with the Trojan horse? Is it the Romans? The Romans with the Trojan horse. They act like. And correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was the Romans though, with the Trojan horse, and they act like they was they gave up. The war was over. They wanted a treaty. They brought them a whole bunch of alcohol, and they brought them that horse. But who was inside who was inside? They had their troops just sitting inside the horse, waiting for them to get all drunk, and then when the time for it, when they all fell asleep, what did they do? Popped it out of the horse and started stabbing them. That is their history, man, even amongst themselves. So even if it's amongst themselves, how much more you? You see? So let's get the next one. You people, you gonna find out the hard way, man. What is this? Let's see here. We start at 20. All right, Psalms 55 and verse 20. It says, "He hath put forth his hands, right, against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant." Right? And that's what they do. It says, "The words of his mouth were smoother than butter." It says, "But war was in his heart." It says, "His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords." And I just gave you an example of that the Trojan horse. That was a good example. Right, they cast these nets and these snares and nets and stumbling blocks amongst you because they make it seem like they care, right? By giving you gifts or presents or come on the media and talk about you and bring you up on stage so you can talk and get all the media and news coverage and give you a hug and I like her. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes, man. You see, and Jake is simple. It's very, very simple, man. Jake is very simple. So it's like when you sit there and you allow these people to do that, and you haven't really learned from the past, what do you think is going to happen in the future? That same lady, now some people might get, no, I won't even say that. Never mind, I'm not even going to say that. But it's like, in the future, what do you think is going to happen? Trump is not going to go against the elites to please you, because you already hate you, so you don't. So when it's time for the deal to go down and him to send the troops in and shut this whole thing down, man, when it's time for all that to happen, you're not going to get spared. You're not going to get spared. You might get spared in the sense, right, where they want to just educate you and be like, okay, here, look, this is the chip, this is the society, this is what we're going to do. They might be nice to you. They might, that way. But at the end of the day, they still want to implement their plan, right? Which that NWO, which is chipping everybody, which is absurd. It's not going to happen, man. Right? But that is the manner and the likeness that they come in, man. Now let's get this last one, and I'm going to close out. Like I said, I meant to be quick. I believe it's in Psalms as well, isn't it? Yeah. Psalms 58. Psalms 58 in verse, straight to the point, verse 3. It says the wicked, right, are estranged from the womb, right? It says they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. It says their poison is like the poison of a serpent. It says they are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear. You see? Immediately born, speaking lies, man. And obviously babies can't talk, but what is that? What is it talking about? Their spirit is in their countenance. They don't know any better. They don't know any better. That's the only thing they know how to do. Is deceit and lies, man. And it goes all back to the garden as well. Because what was going on? The serpent was getting all in Eve's ear, telling him, look, you can just do this. And obviously we can't wait. I can't wait till, we be able to see the story of life so we can see what actually was said. What was said, what did Eve actually do, right? So we can actually see it. And how cunning he was. Oh, look, Eve, look. Now, look, now, if you do this, this what can happen. And nudging her on the shoulder, touching all on her. Look, you can do this. And then, boom, now we're here. All right? So that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to touch on. Because Jake, Jake is completely losing it. And we're getting too close to the end for you to still trust and believe that these people are not your enemy, man. All right? So you need to wise up, Jake.